Sudan Affairs analyst. He's also the CEO and founder of African Stream. Ahmed, thanks so much for joining us again on the News Hour. We spoke last week, I think it was, when the army had retaken the presidential palace. More gains then. This is quite striking, quite a moment. Last week, you kind of hinted that it was unlikely that this conflict could come to an end uniquely via military means. Do you think, given the rapid advances of the army that we continue to see, do you still stand by that opinion that we need more than just military gains here?
Yeah, I mean, I still believe there needs to be international pressure to stop the resupply of arms to the RSF, particularly in the west of the country, in the Darfur region. Otherwise, at best, we will get a de facto partition of the country with the Sudanese army controlling most of the country, but the RSF maintaining control of Kordofan and Darfur, which would be a disaster for the people of those regions. We've heard the testimonies of people that are living under RSF control. The houses have been looted. The women have been taken to sex dungeons, have been raped. Families have been forced to give up their daughters. It's a disaster. And I know that from personal experience because my father was living under RSF control in Bahri, in North Khartoum, and he told me it was an absolute disaster. And they beat him up, they stole his car, and there was no reasoning with them. So the whole of Sudan needs to be liberated, and that can only happen if the arms that are flooding in via Chad into Darfur stop. However, there is a lot of momentum, and when it comes to war, morale is very important. So right now, Sudanese soldiers will be feeling on top of the world. They've retaken Khartoum. They look like they're on the verge of retaking Omdurman. They took over Bahri, North Khartoum, last month, 45 days ago. And everywhere where they've retaken, they're met with crowds cheering them. Meanwhile, those that have had to flee from the RSF are going to be demoralized. Will that lead to people deserting their forces? Will there be more RSF generals defecting, like they did in Medini, in Al-Jazira state a few months ago? Morale is very important in war, and right now, the momentum is definitely with the Sudanese army. So I don't want to underestimate how important that is.
Okay, absolutely. And I suppose, talking about the backers of the RSF, has there been any kind of decrease in their support, given, as you say, the momentum that's with the army, the morale difference between the two sides, and these, quite significant, both symbolic but real losses as well that the RSF has experienced in the last 2 weeks?
Unfortunately not. I don't think it was a wise statement from the Lieutenant General Atta, the Sudanese army, when he threatened to bomb the capital city's airport in Chad and the east and the airports in the east of the country. However, Chad's response was equally not very wise, and it didn't seem to take any accountability. It could have said, arms are coming via Chad, but it has nothing to do with the government, and we're going to do the best of our ability to stop that. It didn't say that. It said that it will take these threats very seriously from Sudan, and if needed, it would even consider striking first. So if anything, it looks like even if the war is won by the Sudanese army, then the problems don't end there. There is regional instability that we've never seen before. There's Uganda, South Sudan, Central African Republic, Ethiopia, Kenya, all been accused by the Sudanese army of backing the RSF. Then there's regional conflicts as well, where it looks like Eritrea and Ethiopia are on the verge of war. South Sudan is on the verge of civil war, and the South Sudanese are accusing the Sudanese army of backing the Vice President Riek Machar. The whole region is a mess. Central African Republic still has its instability, and Libya is already partitioned, where there's two governments in control. So even if, as I said, Sudan is liberated, Sudanese people and the people of the region will be far, far, far away from peace.
And so many things going on, as you say, Ahmed. far beyond the scope of this interview and this programme here today. Nevertheless, we really appreciate your insight as ever on TRT World on the NewsHour. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.